Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Operation 7570 on this Saturday morning, the last Saturday in the month of June 2022. Great to have you with us this morning, whether you're watching on Facebook Live, joined us by WRJB or 95.9. However you're listening and watching today, we appreciate you being here. Going to be hot again today, so stay hydrated by all means. Don't get too hot out there, and whatever you do, have a safe and happy weekend. Our guest this morning is the Administrator of Elections for Benton County. This is Jeff Beasley with us today, and of course we have another election coming up on August the 4th. We're getting close to the deadline to register to vote for that election. If you're not registered to vote, we're going to be giving you information on that as well, and be talking about the ballot coming up in August, and just talking about some things you need to know as we prepare for the August 4th election, which is just about 5 or 6 weeks away. Mr. Beasley, good morning, sir. Good to have you here in our studios today.
Always a pleasure to be with you.
Well, I appreciate you being here, giving up some of your Saturday morning as well. And of course, you've already been through one election back in May. How did that go, and what did that teach you as you get ready for a real big one that's going to be much more
substantial?
Yeah, exactly. Okay. Well, tell me about the first election cycle you went through in May. Yes, sir.
The first one went really, really well, which was I was tickled to death that it went as well as it did, because I was expecting, I was prepared for catastrophe. Never had done this before, and but it all went off pretty well. I mean, we had a little hiccup here and there first couple of hours of the day, got those addressed, and from then on out, things just went smooth as silk, and everything. I was tickled to death. I really was.
Well, I know a few weeks before we had the May election, we had you in our studios to introduce yourself to the folks here in Benton County that may not have had an opportunity to meet with you and know your background. But in case there's any newcomers watching today, new listeners, tell me about your background and how this job came about a year or so ago.
Benton County, born and raised. Left here for 4 years, 1986, active duty Air Force. Came back, had several different jobs, ended up in the trucking business, and got an opportunity to go back into the Tennessee Air National Guard. It's just a part-timer. That lasted about a year, and they offered me an active duty position, and it took me about half a nanosecond to agree to that. So went ahead and finished out 21 years active duty. All total, I've got 27 years this year of active and reserve time. And it just so happened that about the time my contract was up, this job came about, and I had somebody ask me if I'd be interested in it, and I was a little hesitant, and I thought about it, and we prayed about it and said, well, we'll go ahead and give it a shot and see what happens. And I'm not sorry that I done it. It's been a definite change from military life to civilian life. It's a drastic drastic change. Got a great deputy clerk, Marion Harrington, who is we're a team. I don't do one specific thing. She doesn't do one specific thing. We just we work together, and she's my right arm.
Yeah.
Just thank the world of Marion, and she's doing a great job for me and for the people of Benton County.
Well, thank you very much. First of all, thank you for your service to the United States military and your time on active duty and what you're doing now with the United States military. We appreciate that. And the first part of this week, when I went down to visit with you and set up to see if you could be our guest today on 7570, as I entered the Election Commission office, I noticed on the wall, as soon as you enter the door, you look straight across on that wall, I guess which would be on the north side of your office down there, and there was an article, a great article that Dylan wrote in the Chronicle this week. You have a wall of heroes, or a wall of honor, you might say. Explain that and the purpose of that as you visit your office now.
That is, that was an idea that just kind of hit me one day, that I wanted to honor our veterans in the county, and it doesn't matter active duty, National Guard, combat. It doesn't matter. If you if you put on a uniform, laced up your boots, in my opinion, you're a veteran. And there's no better place, in my opinion, to celebrate and honor our veterans than the election office, because our rights that we have in this country, especially the right to vote, it was paid for and secured by our veterans, and it's still secured to this day by our veterans. Politicians didn't give us those rights. Our military, our veterans, there's been a lot of blood spilled to give us these rights and secure those. And I just thought that would be a really good place to give people an opportunity to bring us a picture of their child, their uncle, their brother, their father, their uncle, it doesn't matter, and in uniform, and we're going to put them up on the wall. We put their information up. Got a section for, we had 2 Benton Countyans that were on the Arizona, December 7, 1941. I've got their pictures up. Got another Benton Countyan killed in action in the Philippines, Mr. Bell. You gave me that picture. I appreciate that very much. And we're going to have a POW section. We're just, and like I told Dylan Pally, I don't care if we cover up every wall in the building. I just think it's just the right place to do it, I think.
Until I was down there, of course, I knew about some Benton Countyans who served in the military. I knew about some Benton Countyans killed in the line of duty over in World War II and other conflicts as well. But I did not realize until I saw those 2 gentlemen, from the USS Arizona, I did not realize there was a couple from Benton County on that battleship at the time.
Absolutely, and the funny thing about it was a lady that I had known all my life, and a family, the Cole family. Everybody knows Randy Cole Electric Company. It's his uncle, one of them, Spence, Merle Spence, was on the Arizona, and there was another in Big Sandy, Luther Smith, and that is Gene Rush at the courthouse mayor's office. That's her great uncle. So it all kind of. My mother went to Hawaii a few years back, and I was talking to my brother about it, and said she kept looking for this one name, and her and Avis Cole were the best of friends, and she wanted to find Merle's name on the memorial, and said she finally found it, and said just busted out in tears, because that was I guess it hit pretty close to home.
And this will be something you're going to add to as time goes along. And
Absolutely.
in case anybody's listening, have pictures. And, we're talking about World War II, of course, but this would be any time period that you had a relative or a loved one in service.
Even up to presently, it really doesn't matter. Like I said, if you put on a uniform, laced up your boots, and served your country, we want to honor you.
Yeah, and by the way, World War II, speaking of World War II, we have a veteran, Mr. Joe Whitworth. I understand he celebrated his 96th birthday yesterday,
Sure did.
As a matter of fact. So happy birthday to Joe. We appreciate his time and wish him the very best, of course.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, let's get back to talking activities involving the Benton County Election Commission. You are the administrator, but who governs the Benton County Election Commission? You have a Board of Commissioners, I guess?
We do have
Tell me about
a
that.
election board. Miss Debbie Kyle is the chairman. Miss Donna Melton, retired teacher, is the secretary. We have a new member, Barry Huggart, and then there's Bobby Plant and Janet Higdon. That's a 5-member commission.
And I would imagine every so often you have meetings that are open to the public.
We have quarterly meetings. They're announced on our website, and they are posted in the courthouse, in the election office, the library, and the post office.
Okay. Well, as I mentioned at the top of the program, we're getting closer and closer to the August 4th election that's coming up 5 or 6 weeks out. And is there still time to register to vote for that election?
There is time. The cutoff to register in person is the 5th of July. After that, you can register, but you won't be put into our system. You won't be able to vote in the August election, and your information will go in after the election. As long as you're in there and get your registration in by the 5th of closing business on the 5th, you'll be able to vote in the August election.
In case anybody listening to us right now needs to register to vote for this August 4th election, what can they do?
They can come by the office. They can go to govotn.gov and vote online. The Department of Motor Vehicles, if you go do your license, they provide that service as well.
Okay, so lots of ways, but just keep in mind that date, July the 5th, which are about a month away from August 4th, and 30 days out, that's the cutoff day.
30 days.
Okay. 4th of July is a week from Monday, so by all means, if you're not registered to vote, get in there, see Jeff and his staff down at the Election Commission, do these online things that he told you about. But hey, and how many right now, approximately how many registered voters do we have in Benton County?
Approximately 10,700.
Okay.
Generally, you'll end up with about a 50% turnout on election day. I'm kind of believing that there's going to be a little more than that this time. This is a highly contested election, so I'm expecting a lot of turnout.
Well, this is the election. All elections are important. We know that, no doubt about it. But this is the election where you're going to be electing officials in several offices coming up. You're going to be electing officials which will be the closest to the citizens, the closest form of government we have to the citizens out there.
Absolutely. Our mayor race is up, a sheriff's race, a trustee. The county commission is up for election, and there is a large number of candidates. Our ballot is going to be quite substantial. It's a 8.5 by 14, both sides, because our judicial offices are up this election as well. So your retain or replace your Supreme Court justices for the state of Tennessee is on the ballot this time, and that's a lot. That's a lot of information.
Is this going to be one of the ballots where when we have those slated judges that we're talking about, where we just go down, vote yes or no? Is this
that's it.
Okay.
That's it.
Yeah.
Replace or retain.
Yes.
That's the option, and there's a whole page of just those on regular standard paper. So you can imagine with the large number of commission candidates and all the other offices, it's going to take a little while for people to complete their ballot if they vote every office. So be prepared for a line, I would say, because we're going to set up all the tables we can make room for, to try to speed the process up, but it's going to take a while.
Now, when early voting starts, and let's just go ahead, when does early voting actually start?
15th of July.
Okay, all right.
We'll be there from the 15th through the 30th, and on both Saturdays as well, 8 to 12 on Saturday, and 9 to 4 through the week.
Now, with the early voting process coming up, and you talked about your staff a few moments ago, does this mean you'll have to have extra staff in the office for that 2-week plus period to accommodate the early voters?
Yes, unless we want the line to the courthouse, yes, we will have extra personnel in the office to help speed the process along.
Yeah. Well, as I mentioned, about 6 weeks ago, we went through the Republican primary, and there were some contested races on that particular ballot. Judge-elect Griffey, who will be sworn in September 1st, of course, new Attorney General for this judicial district, General Thompson. But it's my understanding, we know they're going to be coming into office sworn in September 1st, I believe it is, but they will also appear on a ballot in August, won't they?
They will,
unopposed candidates?
They will, because that was simply the primary. This is the general coming up, so they'll be on the ballot as well, singular in that office. They had no opposition, so they'll be on there for election purposes.
Yeah.
They've secured the office already. There's no write-in candidates for those, so those offices are pretty much set. But our trustee has 3 candidates. Sheriff's race has 2. Mayor's race has 3 candidates. And then our county clerk, our register of deeds, highway superintendent are all unopposed. They're all Democrat candidates. And then there's a substantial number of, like I said, of commission candidates, and there is 2 write-in candidates this time. In the 4th District, Wesley Green is a write-in candidate, and in the 1st District, Bob Keast is a write-in candidate. So I know Bob's got a sign right down there by the election office that even has write-in in the corner. They missed the deadline for the other election. Missed the deadline to be on the ballot, so they chose to be write-in candidates.
All right. Well, I tell you, we're about halfway through the program right now. We need to take a break for our sponsor, our good friends at Apex Bank. We'll listen to this message and come back more to talk about other things you'll need to know for the August 4th election. Stay with us.
As summer heats up and the 4th of July approaches, Apex Bank is gearing up for another good old hometown celebration. This is Marcus Vine with Apex Bank. I want to invite you all to our free fish fry on Saturday, July the 2nd from 3 to 6 p.m. Come and enjoy an afternoon of live music, giveaways, and great food, all absolutely free. It's our 14th annual free fish fry, and we'll be looking for you on Saturday, July the 2nd. Happy Independence Day, everyone. Apex Bank, building stronger communities together. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
We're back this morning on Operation 7570, and we appreciate Marcus Vine, our good friends at Apex Bank. And keep in mind, next week they are doing their annual 4th of July fish fry. We'll be out there next Saturday afternoon for a broadcast, 2 or 3 hours next Friday, and we'll be telling you more about that as we go along. But go ahead and keep that information as you get ready to observe and celebrate the 4th of July next weekend. 4th of July falls a week from Monday, so it's going to be a long, long weekend of observances and celebrations, and we appreciate the fact that we are able to have folk like Jeff in to talk about the elections, and thanks to the freedoms. And we have problems. We know that we have problems in this country, but still the greatest country in the world.
Absolutely. We are blessed beyond measure to be Americans. No matter what our feelings about the condition of the government is, this is the greatest country that the earth has ever known.
Absolutely. And as a fellow who has served as part of our armed services in the military, I guess that even gives you a greater appreciation, even before you were enlisted then.
It does. I come from a pretty long line of veterans. My dad, all his brothers, uncle on my mother's side, my son serving currently on active duty, which makes me extremely proud.
Well, congratulations again. We appreciate all you and your family's service to our great country, and all the veterans out there and people serving in our armed services. Of course, we have Veterans Day, but we can thank a veteran 365 days
every day
year.
Every day of the year.
Absolutely. Jeff, we're talking about the election. August 4th is coming up, as we've alluded to. That's going to be a big ballot, and we've talked about things that we're going to be voting on here locally, but it's my understanding there's also going to be state primary, a Republican and Democratic primary. So how does that whole process work when I come in to vote? If I want to vote for all these candidates on the local ballot, I understand that, the general election, but how does the state Democrat and Republican primaries come together for the process on August 4th?
Well, there's 2 separate ballots. There's your Republican primary ballot, your Democrat primary ballot. So that's what you'll have to give us that information on if you want to vote a Republican ballot or a Democrat ballot. And then we'll have our county general ballot as well. So we're trying to figure out a way to, some people want to come in and say, throw their hand up and say, I'm a Republican, I'm a Democrat. Some people don't want folks to know. So I'm probably going to have, something on the counter where they can just point and tell me and give me their identification. I can pull up their information, and I'll be able to convey to our help which ballot that they request. And if that's kind of what we're working on, is some way to, if folks want to keep their political affiliation their own business, we're going to try to work out a way to where we can do that as well.
Okay. So if I come in to vote, I know I'm going to get the general ballot, the county general ballot for the particular district that I'm in, and at the same time, I'll either choose the Republican or the Democrat state primary ballot.
Exactly. And there are people that choose to not vote in primaries. So if they just want a general ballot, then they can request that, and they can get that. The only record of your vote as far as party affiliation is through the primary process, because you have to select one or the other, and some folks just don't want anybody to know. They're more. They have more information and about the election process, and they want to keep their political affiliation between them and the good Lord, and so a lot of them won't even pick a primary ballot because of that.
Yeah. Well, I know after the 2020 census, some district lines had to be redrawn, maybe some county district lines, maybe some state district lines, some congressional boundaries. Did that affect what you had to do in the election commission to a great extent?
We were fortunate as to our numbers didn't fluctuate more than 5% in each district, so we didn't have to move any county district lines. However, the state house lines did change. The 7th came in and took over some of the 8th. They took the 2nd and the 5th districts totally, and a small number of people in the 3rd, and they already had kind of the northern tip of the 6th. So we've made accommodations for ballots to make sure that if you're one of those folks that you ended up in that split district, that you'll get the correct ballot. Because if you get, 21 people in the 3rd ended up in the 7th House, okay. U.S. House, 21 people.
All right.
So.
Yeah, okay, 7th, let's see, is that Representative Kustoff's? Is that his district, or that would be Congressman Green?
The 7th is Kustoff, okay. And the 8th is Green.
Okay, all right then, yeah. But most of Benton County, not all, but most will be remaining Congressman Green's, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, who's been our congressman, I think, for the last 2 election cycles, and I think this will be his 3rd term as a U.S.
I'm trying to
representative.
make sure I didn't tell
right,
you that backwards.
Right, well, it can be, let's face it, it can be confusing, but, when you come to vote, whether it's going to be through the early voting process or you vote in person on August the 4th, you'll have the correct ballot with all the information. Yeah.
Yes, and we have a new state representative, Jay Reedy. Mm-hmm. He hails from Aaron, Tennessee. When they redistrict the 74th House, he took this part of the state. So he's running unopposed. There are 3 Democrat governor candidates for the state primary running against Governor Lee. And it's just, like I said, the ballot is substantial. It's going to take a little while for folks to go through all this if they want to really keep their vote for who they want. They're really going to have to do some studying. We'll have sample ballot come out in the paper. We'll have a ballot hung on the wall coming into the election office so they can study that on the way in. Maybe kind of, if they don't have their mind made up, maybe they can have it made up before they get in there and start marking their ballot.
Well, regardless of what happens, come September 1, there'll be some swearing in of some officials, as we know, and then the slate of county commissioners. Every county commission seat is up in every district. It
is, and we have 7 candidates and a write-in in the first. Some districts only have 4 candidates. It goes everywhere from 4 to 8 candidates in a district. So it's going to be a long process. Half the school board is up. We only do school board every other. That way you don't end up with a whole school board brand new school board members. So half that's on this ballot. It's the biggest ballot in the state of Tennessee's history.
Well, it's going to be something, and now is the time to become election aware. Know what district you're in and know what candidates are going to be on the ballot when you go to your individual precinct on August 4th.
Exactly, and there's always, I found this out on election day, there's always folks come to the election office and want to vote there. I say, well, that's where you voted. Well, you probably voted there early voting, but election day we do not vote at the election office. That is at your precinct, at your different district. So at Holiday School, the 2nd district's at junior high, the 3rd's at the city hall, the 4th is at Camden Elementary on the north end, the 5th, which is a city, is in the library, the basement. and the 6th is at Big Sandy School. There's a 100-foot boundary from the entrance, so there can't be any kind of political activity within that 100 feet. We'll have those marked. Yeah, if you got any questions, we're more than happy to address any kind of questions. If I don't have an answer for you, I'll get you one.
Whether I vote through the early voting process or vote in person on August the 4th, how will I go? I mean, will I get a paper ballot? Will I vote on a machine? Explain that voting process.
We have paper ballots. We will have paper ballots as long as I'm the administrator, because I think that is a kind of a safety net. If there's any kind of contested election, anything like that, you can always go back to the paper. Our machines scan paper ballots and tabulate the vote. So you can request a absentee ballot. We have permanent absentee voters that are physically unable. That has to be signed by a doctor, not a nurse practitioner. It has to be an actual doctor that has to sign that document. We've got probably 24 absentee voters right now. They've called in and requested ballots, and those have to be returned to the election office by the close of polls on election day for them to count. So we're going to get them out in plenty of time. The mail is kind of right now, it's not real reliable. That's not our local post office's fault. The sorting changed from Jackson to Memphis, and I guess they're still working through some issues there. So I've had some phone calls where we send out registration, or the wallet cards, and had a guy call yesterday, and he said, my wife got her card, I haven't gotten mine. Well, they went out the same day, and I told him, I said, hey, if you don't hear from them if you don't find it in a week in the mailbox, call me back, let me know, we'll send you out another. That's been an issue, but that's why I say, if you get your absentee ballot and go ahead and fill that thing out and put it in the mail and get it back to us, because if we don't have it by the close of polls on election day, it can't count.
Now, if I request an absentee ballot, like some of the individuals that you've talked about, you've already got that request in from certain individuals, and they will keep on coming in. But I would imagine there is a date, an opening date, that you have to send those ballots out in there. I mean, I make a request to you right now. I mean, you can't send me a ballot Monday.
No.
Yeah, right. That's what I'm getting at.
And off the top of my head, I don't have that date. I wish I did.
Okay, yeah. Well,
you stumped me.
Okay, no problem. You've got lots on your plate. I understand that. I appreciate your job so very, very much. But at the same time, when we talk about people who request ballots by mail, do you get a lot of requests from personnel in the military serving on various bases, or maybe even overseas?
Generally, from what I understand from other administrators, that is a big push, mainly during presidential elections. I haven't gotten any yet so far. We check every day to see if we get those requests for overseas ballots, but up until today, we have gotten none. And generally, military is more concerned about national level races. They want to know who they're going to work for. Basically is what it comes down to, and they want to be a part of selecting who they work for. So that, my understanding from other administrators, is that's when you'll get a big military push. Generally is during the presidential election, presidential preference primaries and things like that.
Now, on the night of August the 4th, the polls will close at 7 o'clock, and then there's a process that will be going forth. There will be a process to go forth to get those ballots counted, and after the polls closed at the various precincts, there's some work the election officials at those individual precincts have to do before they bring the boxes back to the office.
Basically, what happens in that process is we have both party representation waiting. I put them at the furthest away precincts, so they're going to be waiting in Big Sandy and waiting in Holiday. Okay, and at 7 o'clock when the polls close and the last voter goes through, they're going to go in and they're going to be trained on how to pull the tape off the machine. It's going to get posted on the door, the window, whatever, and they're going to seal those machines up, load them up on a trailer. They're going to go the other two, which are closer. Our other two precincts are at the city hall and the library and at the 2 schools. And the first thing we'll do is we will tabulate our early vote. And that will go immediately, as soon as I pull that tape, it'll go immediately on the window at the election office. And then as our machines come in, we'll pull those tapes, pull those drives out, put them in our election computer at work, which is not online. They pull a thumb drive out. It keeps the tabulation of all the votes. And then that it's from Harp Industries. That's our election. It's where our voting machines are from. And it will tabulate all the votes together, and then we'll find out each precinct results, and then we can get a total off of that.
Before August 4th, do you have a date whereby you test the machines, where you have a testing process?
We absolutely do a testing process, and that will be Tuesday. This week we sent out letters to all the candidates. It's open to the public. We have limited room, so that's going to be up to individuals and whether they want to stand in the hall or stand outside the door and watch it. But it's basically, we have test ballots. We will mark those ballots. We will record the number of votes for each candidate that we put in there. We'll load those ballots through in our machines and make sure that the machine counts the votes that we mark on those ballots. And when that is done, it's completed and it's accurate, we will seal up with seals that are numbered. We'll record all that, and that can be given to candidates. It's sent to the state, and when we bring the machines back on election night, we have to verify that all those seals have not been tampered with. It's a very secure way of making sure that our elections are not tampered with. If that seal number doesn't match, then there's an issue.
This testing process, you say this Tuesday, open to the public, what time?
9 o'clock.
9 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, and I'm hoping that it goes quicker than the last time, because we were uneducated in the process of testing machines, and it's kind of like election night. I said I learned more in 3 hours than I could have learned in a year on election night. I learned a lot when we did our machine testing, so we'll be better prepared for the technicians that come from HARP to assist us with that process.
Well, as you know, we've talked about it this morning about the election process, and we see the signs in various locations for the offices, county mayor, sheriff coming up. What other contested races? Trustee, yeah.
Trustee.
Yeah, okay. And we mentioned the county commissioners, and do you, by chance, did you bring a list of county commissioners from the various districts, the candidates?
I do have.
Okay, well, let's just go over that. I mean,
All right.
people maybe in the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th districts. I don't even know if I'm familiar with everybody running my district.
It's lengthy.
Okay.
District 1 is Keith Arnold, Henry Berry, Marty Douglas, Chris Hatley, Angela Hearn, Carlos Jones, Ward Plant, Stephen Stokes, and then the write-in Bob. And then the 2nd district is Deborah Bain, Dana Jo McKelvey, Kenneth Miller, and Rocky Presson. And the 3rd is Brett Burke, Gary Furr, Frank P. Lashley Jr., Samuel Shaw, and Faye Waldron. And in the 4th, we have Alice Douglas, Dwayne Fowler, Sonny Hall, and Phil Melton. And Wesley Green is a write-in candidate for that district. And the 5th, Rochelle Hill, Jimmy Lee Kenniston, Tony Lytle, Mike Nunnery, and Roseanne Ward. And in the 6th, we have Bobby Burcham, Darrell Hicks, Terry Keene, Jerry Price, and Dustin Tubbs.
Some familiar names, some names that may not be that familiar, but regardless of what district you're in, be sure, get familiar with the candidates then.
Some of them are out knocking on doors, meeting people, doing their campaigning. My suggestion to the voters is that, call them, talk to them, find out where they stand on issues that concern you, Some people are happy with who we've got. Some people are not. That's just politics. But don't make an uneducated vote. Learn what these people are, where they're standing on issues that concern you.
And school board, let's see, not all school board seats come up. We talked about that, but what about the districts that will have a contested school board races?
First district, Jessica Bell and Justin Thornton. Second district is Christy Baldwin, Mark Hargis, and Gina Reagan. Third district is Kimberly J. Hartley and Marco Winters. The fourth district is not contested. That's Shauna Kennan. Fifth district is Mike Holliday and Brent Hedge. And the sixth is Rebecca Burcham and Robert D. Thompson.
Okay, so
All those candidates are independent. Well, no, they're not all independent. There is two Republican second district and third district, and the fifth district all have a Republican candidate, and the rest of them are independent.
well, Jeff, it's been an honor to have you here in our studios today. We appreciate it, and I think what we need to do right now is reiterate the fact we do have an important election coming up in Benton County on August the 4th, but right now I think the thing we need to stress everything, I know that, but if you're not registered to vote again, let's talk about the deadline for getting registered to vote for August 4th.
5th of July,
Okay.
last day to do it in person. We will get registrations in from the DMV. We do pretty much every day when people go to do their driver's license renewals, things like that. But unless you're going through that process, or go votetennessee.gov, come by the office. We have registrations. We'll get you to fill your registration out. We'll put you in the system. We will mail you your wallet card. That way we have a way of verifying that you are at the address you say you're at. And that's another one of those things where it comes to the mail.
There's probably an element of population out there. I've heard it. I'm sure you've heard it. Luke's heard it. You know, people will say, my vote's not going to make a difference. Why should I go and vote? What would be your response to that?
I think every vote counts. Literally, I think every vote counts. I have never subscribed to that it doesn't matter what I do. I don't agree with that at all. I think, an election can come down, literally can come down to one vote. We've had races in this county where it has been, 30 votes has separated it, So, yeah, my granddaddy always said, if you don't vote, don't gripe. So,
Mr. Verdell,
yeah.
Verdell Pierce, fine man. Remember him well.
If you don't vote, don't gripe. So, I think it's our duty to vote. I don't think it's a privilege, but it's also our duty to vote and select the people that's going to lead our county, in the future. And so, I really hate to hear it when people say, I'm not voting, it don't count. I don't subscribe to that at all.
With the election coming up, if people have questions, they can come in and see you down at the Election Commission. Give me the address and the phone number again, sir.
113 Maple Avenue in Camden, right down the road from Craig's Pizza. If that's a good landmark to use for people to find it. Number's 584-6144. And we're there 8 to 4, 5 days a week. And we're, like I said, if we don't have an answer for you, I'll get you one.
Well, anything in closing from you today, my friend?
Just everybody, come on out and vote and make your voice heard.
Well, thank you for what you're doing, and thank you for your military service, and happy 4th of July to you and all your family.
My mother's birthday.
Is that right? Well, happy 4th of July. All right. A lot of fireworks.
Yep,
A lot of
sure
fireworks.
enough.
Happy birthday. All right. Jeff, thank you very much,
Thanks
and
for
we'll
having
be in
me.
touch, sir.
Thanks for having me.
We can help you in any way. You know where we are.
Yes, sir.
Ladies and gentlemen, that's our program, Operation 7570 today. We hope you have a great weekend. Stay hydrated out there. Keep safe. We'll see you next Saturday morning.